Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Off Script with Pastor Jared. I haven't ranted in a while, and I just felt pent up today. And so I thought it would be a good time to address something from an article that I recently saw. And I want to say on the front end, this isn't about the article, really. The article is just the avenue for the bigger thing that I want to draw out. So the article that I saw today is entitled "The Surprising Attendance Decline of Streaming Worship Services, 5 Observations." And it's from Tom Rainer and churchanswers.com, which, by the way, I think is fine. I have a basket of articles and blogs and people that I check in with. Kerry Newhoff is a leadership guy. You know, I'll check into his blogs from time to time. Tom Rainer's good. You know, there's a list. There's probably 10 that I check in with. But what I want to encourage you with today, and this may be more so for the pastor that's listening from another church or something like that, if you're leading something, but I still think it's good for everybody's heart to hear. And it's my encouragement to you not to be dragged around by a constant stream of changing opinions via blogs, and especially people who have nothing to lose by the things that they write. All right, so let me tell you what I mean. I remember, and maybe you remember, when COVID world was really getting going. So March 2020 was the onset. April, May, June was heavy online church. Everybody was doing online church, digital streaming services, everything. Rushing out that way because you just had to. Everybody had to. I forget what percentage of churches never, ever shut down once. And it's like less than 5% never shut down. So most churches went digital for at least a couple weeks. So time goes on, and we're all reading, you know, into the moment, the cultural moment, and everybody who's writing anything is going on and on about the new normal and how this is the new direction and everything is going digital. And yes, someday COVID's going to end, but church is going to be primarily digital, or church, the streaming online is going to be the big thing of the future, and everybody's going to go all in. So if you don't have a pristine digital service, if you don't have a separate service for digital always offered, if you don't have this and this, and if your quality is this and this, well, just know the world's going to pass you by and you'll never recover, and you'll be the old declining, you know, church that's basically singing out of hymnals and stained glass and, you know, dust and 10 senior adults keeping the lights on. That's going to be you if you don't keep up. This is the next big change. Are you ready for it? And if you're not ready, invest now. And so I can only answer for myself and our church, but I'm guessing that a lot of churches heeded that advice and went and spent large amounts of money in upgrading and changing their digital presence and going all in on their online ministry. Now, let me preface with, there are some good things that happened, and it's good to constantly upgrade, and it's good to ask, can we do better at this or that? I know our church needed to upgrade our online systems, our streaming. We got a better camera. We have a much clearer picture. Our audio is much improved, and it's a way better experience watching the service online now. That needed to happen. But that was not a major change to our church. It was maybe $2,000-$3,000. That's not a monstrous change in the scope of the overall budget year. And given the importance of what we needed, it was worth doing. I'm more concerned about the churches that didn't have that money. I'm more concerned about the churches that spent tens of thousands of dollars and did a complete overhaul. And I'm more concerned about the churches that changed their strategy, that said, you know what, The in-person thing is never going to really come back. We got to change. That was the world in the summer and going into the fall of 2020. Let me read you this article now today that came out from Tom Rainer from the fall. Well, it's November now. I guess that's fall or winter. I don't know. It's of 2021. Okay. He has 5 points. I'll give you just the overview of the first couple, but 4 and 5 are where I really want to drill in. So the first one, the first major point of the article is that the online service is declining overall. So the title is The Surprising Decline of Streaming Worship Services. Basically, most churches, it says in the beginning, 9 out of 10 church leaders describe the church's decline in attendance in streaming worship services as major. Many of them say the decline is at least 90% from its pandemic peak. So, in other words, people are watching church online way less now than they ever were. Like it's way down. And so this article seeks to kind of figure that out, what's going on. Number one, they say the desire to return to in-person worship services was a pent-up demand far greater than we thought it would be. Right. But that's what most people said was going to happen. We said people are going to want to long to get back in person. Number two, watching streaming services never developed into a habit. I think we can agree with that. Most people, and even point number three, the novelty has worn off. You combine those together. Maybe you've watched an online service. I think you can say it's just okay. You know, it's not great. It's just okay. It's never going to be awesome. The only time it's just I'm glad to have it is if you're sick, you're traveling, you're a shut-in widow, your family, your senior adult family members, want to check in with you, something like that. It's just not great. It's never the same as being there in person. And that's supposed to be that way. Number four, this caught me. This triggered me. Okay. And I like Tom Rainer generally. He says, be careful not to invest too heavily in streaming services. Many church leaders continue to update the digital hardware and software at significant financial cost. Other leaders spend hours each week preparing and refining the digital services. More attention needs to be paid to working toward getting more of our congregants returning to in-person services. Hold the phone now. I remember when that was not the advice given. The advice given was throw everything into digital. Go all in. You're an idiot if you're not. So now, when the numbers are changing and people are not watching digital online services as much, now all the advice is saying, be careful not to invest too heavily. Don't throw everything into digital. Push toward coming back in person. Get people in the building. Get back into your rhythms. And so here's the lesson, guys. Here's the lesson. These bloggers, and again, please, I will continue to read and quote Tom Rainer. This isn't about Tom Rainer. He's by no means the only one out there. Bloggers, it costs them nothing to write a blog. You can write up a blog and speak to the universal church and make your point known, and it costs you nothing. In fact, you make money from people clicking on your blog. Okay? You can say whatever you want. Our job as people going to a local church is to carefully listen to these voices out there and not to take it so seriously that we go out and act every time they say something, because they will reverse their opinion within 1 year's time. We don't even remember what people said a year ago. So I just think it's a good lesson to us. If you spend your life doing whatever the bloggers say or whatever the top leaders of your group say or whatever your tribe's leaders say, you're going to be running left, running right, up, down, hot, cold, inside, outside. Like you're going to just constantly be chasing the ever elusive new. And what does it cost? What does it cost these blog writers to reverse their opinion? Nothing. All they say is, we got new information. The data has changed. Well, what about all those people that went out and heavily, and you're saying now, do not invest too heavily in streaming services. Well, what about all the ones that invested too heavily in streaming services because you told them to, because you pushed them? You said your church is going to die if you don't adapt to the new normal. And they listened. They went out and did it because they wanted to do right. Well, now, what does it cost you? Nothing. You didn't pay for their streaming stuff. You didn't pay for their equipment. You didn't buy them a new soundboard. But you pressured all these panicked church leaders into going out and doing that. Now, church leaders, I'm calling for I'm calling for a stop to listening to these people, because they're not in your church. If your church grows or tanks, they don't care. They'll just write the obituary. They'll write the article up about it, and they'll put it in a blog, and they'll make clickbait money off of you. But they don't care about you and your church. All the growth tactics, they'll change them as soon as the wind changes. They'll change them like they change their underpants. Okay. So don't think that these guys love you and love your church. They're just trying to put strategy out there that they see in front of their face that day. But as soon as it changes, they change. And when you've listened to them and they completely reverse their opinion, are they there to help you? No. So here's my call to drastically reduce the amount of weight you put on outside voices in your church, leading your people, in leading your mind, getting into your mind of all the podcasts and blogs and vlogs and YouTube and Facebook and all of those things you let into your brain. You still got to retain a shred of, I'm going to think my own thoughts because I stand before the Lord for these people. You're not going to change my mind just because you show me one blog, because eternity's a long time. All right. And these guys write a blog a day. And if they change, it means nothing. But for us to make changes, oftentimes it's a big deal. So that's my encouragement to you guys. Don't just go with what everybody says. Just because all the blogs in the world say it doesn't mean it's true, because they will reverse their opinion instantly. The snap of a finger, they'll reverse it and leave you holding the bag. And I say that in complete love because I love you and I don't want you to fall into this stuff. All right. Well, that's today's rant. That's today's episode of Off Script with Pastor Jared. Have a lovely, lovely week. And by all means, join your local church and worship the Lord this Sunday. God bless.